Final hour OverDrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. Our buddy Marty Biron later in the hour. It's my understanding Marty's at the Bell Center tonight, right? Calling the game. Habs, Islanders. Patrick Waugh making his return behind the bench for the Islanders. Should be really, really cool. And I'm predicting a wave. I'm predicting a wave to the crowd. I think he gets up on the Jumbotron. They acknowledge him. Congratulations on the new gig.
Dude,
little
when
wave.
have you ever
Little
seen
wave.
When have you ever seen the home team acknowledge a new coach gig?
When have you ever seen the equivalent of Patrick Waugh get that
Dude.
gig and return to Montreal?
I don't know. I'll bet you $500 there's no big screen acknowledgement for Patrick Waugh.
No?
He's already been back as a coach of the Colorado Avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're like, hey, you got another gig.
Yeah, but they are so rich in history, and they love to basically admire their own history.
Yes.
Like they love, and they should be very proud of it.
Yes, they have a celebration before every game. They're acknowledging somebody retiring a jersey. And
now
great.
it's Patrick Waugh, and it'll be Patrick Waugh tonight.
No,
I think
isn't.
Patrick Waugh is the equivalent of like the alumni at a Leaf game where they go out there with the military. That'll be Patrick Waugh tonight. He'll be the Habs alumni.
Yeah.
That's what it should be
They are
tonight.
not acknowledging Patrick Waugh tonight.
I think you have to.
They should. They should. Don't you think, Dave?
I mean, his numbers in the rafters, O-Dog. I mean, he's a god in Quebec.
Guys, you're not listening. He's already been back as the coach of the Avalanche.
I understand
You
that.
think the Habs are going to put up great to see you back, Patrick?
Yeah,
They won't do it like that.
in
They're gonna
Francais.
do it in some really classy way. It'll
Yeah.
look great. People will
You
get.
guys are insane, man. I'm not trying to big league you, but
Really?
I know how this deal goes down. This is not going to happen.
Okay.
Well, they
He's
should.
been back as a coach.
I understand that.
They're not going to acknowledge he got fired and has been out of the game and he's back again. There
he's
will not
been-
be a welcome back.
But he's been out of the league for 7 years. He is a deity in Quebec. Like fans have been clamoring
St.
for this guy
Patrick.
to take over the Canadiens. They've been clamoring for him to coach the Canadiens.
Yep.
There's very few people that are more popular in that province than that man.
That's right.
And 33 hangs above that ice surface. I just can't. You don't just like ho hum. Just another day at the office. Here's the New York Islanders with their, Lou Lamoriello's guys.
I agree.
It's not that.
And I'm not saying
Here's
every
what
single
could
time.
happen. Here's what could happen. The Jumbotron could just put the camera on him behind the bench, so they just show him, and that's the cue to the crowd to give him some acknowledgement.
And he will. He'll pull the Ace Ventura at the end when he's beating the hell out of the mascot, and he'll give he'll wave, he'll give a little bit of a smile. He'll act like he's surprised, but I think he's preparing for it, like you were when you went back to Carolina.
That's right.
I think that's where the bitterness comes from. You are furious at the idea that Patrick Waugh is going to get another return, like montage. He won't get a montage tonight, but acknowledged by the home crowd.
There's guys that get welcome back videos that played 3 months on a team. They're like, welcome back, you did great things here. And the guy's waving to the crowd, and I'm like, what have we got? Like, what have we done?
It's wild. It's gotten carried away, but I don't think that counts here. In all seriousness, I think Patrick Waugh is separate from that. That's what I'm saying. It's paying homage to Patrick Waugh and what he won 2 cups.
The most disappointing thing about it is years later, I inquired and I said, I got to ask you something. I gave 11 years of my career to the Canes, and I didn't get a welcome back video, and I want to know why. And I was told, we were told directly, don't even think about a welcome back video.
So who do you
By
think,
who?
Yeah, who gave the code red on that?
I know who, but I'm not going to say it. But there's direction towards game ops and everyone. Don't even think about it.
That's shameful.
That is.
That's really shameful. I'm
It's
trying to
tough,
think of who
man.
that would have been. I'm not going to name names because
There's no
obviously I
sense in
don't know. It
naming
doesn't
names,
matter.
because probably it's someone that you wouldn't think.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
But
how
like,
often did they do it? Like, were they probably weren't doing that.
Dave, I was sitting on the bench practicing my wave to the crowd. I'm like, any timeout here, the next TV timeout, I'm going to get up and do a lap and give the wave. And then after that day, every Tom, Dick, and Harry got a welcome back video,
Yeah.
and it started creeping into my life and really screwing with me.
They really did. You're right. I mean, everyone's getting it these days. And what are you going to do? It's all good. What are you going to do?
When I see guys that really played a long time and they start crying on the bench, I start crying with them. I'm with you, fans in Carolina. I'm with you.
Yeah. No, listen, like we're talking about Bill Belichick. If he gets back in the game as a coach and he returns to New England, I don't know how he would approach that. Like, he'd be all business. That would be really aggravating, as he'd be like, no, it's just a game. He'd play that role. Like, we're on in New England. I'm just preparing as if it's any other game. It's like, stop it, Bill. Like, stop pretending like this is any other game. You're going back to coach against the team you coached for 24 years and went to how many? 8 Super Bowls, 9 Super Bowls, 9 Super Bowls and won 6.
Right.
Come on, man. Come on, Bill. But it's not going to be in Atlanta. Raheem Morris is the man down there.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
What's the openings? Commanders?
Let me look. I just had it. It's
Carolina hired a guy.
So, here's what you got. You got the Chargers hired Jim Harbaugh. The Raiders kept Antonio Pierce. Patriots, Gerard Mayo. Titans, Brian Callahan. The Panthers, Dave Canales, who they just hired. So you got Seahawks, Commanders, Falcons, but now the Falcons have hired Raheem Morris. So you have Washington and Seattle. He's not going to Seattle. They're not moving off Pete Carroll to bring in Bill Belichick.
No,
I don't think so.
It's either Washington or a team that we're not aware of yet. A team that's willing to move on, because I can't imagine it's one of these 4 teams. It won't be. Shanahan's not leaving the Niners. Campbell's clearly not leaving Detroit.
No way.
Andy Reid's not leaving, and Harbaugh's not leaving Baltimore. No. So it's not one of the final 4 teams.
Can't see
and you would have to think Bill Belichick, with his resume, once he got that second interview in Atlanta, he probably thought he got the job.
Yes, if he really wanted. I mean, there is the potential that he didn't want it, that he went in there, looked under the hood, and said, I'm not, this isn't going to work for me.
Or he asked for too much, which forced them to say, you're not getting it.
Right. Which is definitely possible too. But and again, some people are speculating if he doesn't get back into the job, into the league immediately as a coach, does he get into media, which is possible. Thing is, he's not a young guy.
Do the old Doc Rivers.
Right. Maybe he joins a booth for like 6 weeks and then takes over. Although firings mid-season rarely happen in the NFL.
True.
But the further you get away from the game, like the more it can pass you by. Like you would think a name like Belichick would be a guy that even if it's a year or 2 from now, if he wants to get back in, someone is going to give him an opportunity. But every coach at some point probably is out of the game thinking, I'll just get back in someday, and then they don't return.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 5 years later, they realize, all right, that's gone. Like that ship has sailed. I'm not going to get back in. I think it would be crazy, and I think it would be a sad ending if he just didn't get in knowing that he wants to get back in. Like, if no one were willing to give Bill Belichick a chance, which I find impossible to believe, but if it were to get to a point where they basically are just like, you're out, you're old school, we've moved on, that would be a really kind of horrible way to finish an all-time great career.
Wow.
Like, you're waiting for him to go out, not necessarily on top, but at least have another crack somewhere else, keep chasing the all-time records, and then once he gets the record, if he wants to leave, he leaves.
Well, that's the thing. How much does the Shula record factor into this?
Seems pretty substantial.
It does.
I don't know. We have Herm. Herm's not. All right. I don't know if we're going to get Herm. Herm's not answering right now. So maybe Herm could be looking into jobs himself. Right? It's possible.
Herm's the next coach of the Commanders.
Maybe Herb's going to take over for the Commanders. So yeah. All right. You have a clip you want to play? Do we have that? What are you setting up here, that you want to play so badly?
I'm just setting up something where you guys all claimed and all dunked on me yesterday that I did not say something. JP, most importantly, did not believe in me. I would just like to leave this right here for you to play.
Dude, there's an amateur out on that golf course right now. His name's Sam Bennett.
Yes.
You can't miss him because he takes an hour to hit every shot. But this guy can move the rock, and he can play.
Dude, he's 4 under through 8.
Yeah.
He's 4 under. He eagled 2.
No kidding. And I'm telling you, I this might be a crazy notion. These amateurs are so good in college right now. It's like they're just Tiger Woods. They're mini Tiger Woodses in college. One of these guys is going to walk on one of these golf courses like Augusta or a U.S. Open, and they're going to win.
But do you think they'll soil themselves when the pressure's on? That's the thing. Like first 2-3 days,
Noodles,
you can be a hero.
I honestly think they're trained robots. They're like McDavid. Why are you shaking your head?
Because
I think it's going to happen.
You can't be trained to play at Augusta when you've literally never played it.
Okay, so I'm so glad you found that.
No. I'm just saying.
Wait a minute.
Listen, I proved you wrong. I found the clip. You didn't think there was a clip.
No.
And JP, you can come on and apologize first.
Okay, go ahead, JP. Be careful, all right? Because once you apologize, you can't put that back in the bag.
I think I know where you're going with this,
You
Hayes.
know exactly where I'm going.
And I'm kind of with you.
Yes.
I don't think I need to apologize.
Thank you, because you said you didn't say he's going to win the Amex at PGA West. You said a major. You said Augusta or the U.S. Open. Last time I checked, that still hasn't happened.
Once you say a major, that umbrellas everything.
Oh, really?
Because the majors
Corn
are
Ferry?
obviously... If you say major, obviously that would include any other tournament. That basically is saying to anyone like Feschuk who would know what I'm talking about, a major and or other tournament.
You're saying a major event, not a major.
Right. Like
That's a good way to put it. Any event for an AM is a major event.
Okay, so why do we have the mic on? Go ahead.
Sorry,
Doogie's just yelling in the background, but yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I will apologize to you when a major is won
There you go.
by an amateur.
I think that's appropriate. I will say the umbrella, there's something to that. It was a good take. It's and you're right about them being robotic, them being so good. Nick Dunlap just proved that. It was not a major field at the MX, but this guy was paired with Justin Thomas and with Sam Burns. I mean, that is a stud. That is a stud.
Multiple PGA Tour winners.
Yeah.
JT's case, obviously a two-time major winner.
Yeah,
these
were
kids
right.
these days, they play to win the game.
They absolutely do.
They do. I mean,
they absolutely
look, the 19-year-old kid won on the Corn Ferry the other day.
There you go.
Just after the 20-year-old wins on the PGA Tour.
According to that's the same as the winning.
Is that a major event?
It's the same thing.
Corn Ferry?
The Masters and the Corn Ferry, it's just all one big pot. All right, here's a longtime NFL head coach, ESPN NFL analyst Herm Edwards. How you doing, Herm?
I am well. You know what? In my next life, I want to grow up and be a golfer.
Yes. Wouldn't that be great? Just take it easy out there. What's your game look like these days, Herm?
Well, I've been in the studio too much, but as soon as this season ends, I'm going to get back out there on the golf course.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. I'm with you, man. That'd be a great lifestyle. And we've been discussing all day like the turnover in the NFL, and you mentioned earlier, and I guess it's been pretty consistent for years, Herm, and I know you've been a part of it. You've been caught up in it both ways, positively, negatively. But there just seems to be so much coaching turnover every single year. Do you have a theory as to why there's so much turnover every single season?
Well, I think when ownership has a lot to do with that. You talk about head coaches.
Yeah, head coaches in particular.
Yeah. Obviously, the noise outside the building sometimes is too much for ownership and the GMs to bear with, and they just rather than be patient and say we got to build it. It's 2 years and maybe 3 at the most, and if you don't get that thing headed in the right direction, or if you don't win enough of those important games, once you get in the playoffs, you could find yourself out of a job.
Herm, what do you think about Bill Belichick not being employed right now? Does that somewhat shock you or not?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Where does he want to go and what does he want, right? I mean, when he goes there, I mean, that's going to be the key for Bill, how much control he has or how much control he does not have. And I think if you're in ownership and you don't want to give up control of he gets to pick the players, he gets to do this, then he's probably not the guy you want to hire.
Yeah, that seems to be a part of the process here. Like, we're not in the room, but like Bill kind of wants to be the chef and he wants to,
and just imagine if you're a GM,
mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, basically, the GM's working for the head coach.
Right.
Most of these GMs are going, wait a minute, that worked for a while when you had Captain America as your quarterback. But when Captain America left, all of a sudden it didn't work so good.
Yeah.
No, that's a fair point, Herb. But obviously, the guy still has 6 Super Bowls on his resume. It wasn't by accident.
9 Super Bowls. 9 Super Bowls. He's a great coach. I'm not trying to say he's not a great coach, but he is.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the question is, like, for him, I mean, I'm sure everybody that gets to a certain age has to reckon with the idea that maybe I got to change. I got to change my standards, or I got to change what I demand, or I got to change how I view this game if I want to stay in this game because the game is changing. And how do you think a guy like Belichick would deal with that type of a logic?
Well, you make a great point, but not only that, you got to make sure that you can connect with the players. You know, a lot of those wins you had and what you did, 10 years ago, these players in today's world, that's old history. They don't know anything about that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The players coming out in today's world, it's a different player. It's a different athlete. You know, they can actually ask you why. You got to tell them why
Right.
before you do anything any day.
Yeah.
You could never ask a coach that. You just did what the coach said. Well, in today's world, they want to know why.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we doing that, coach? Right? And if you're back into that era when I played, and when Bill was coaching, and when I started coaching, players didn't have a voice like they do today, right? And players have a voice; they have platforms, and they can speak on these platforms. And you pay these guys a lot of money, and you can't cut them, you can't run them off. So you have to be able to massage a little bit of how you want to do things, because players want to win. All players want to win, but they want the formula. Okay, coach, why are we doing that? These other teams do this. Why do we have to do that? Right? All these players talk now. Why are we doing all this stuff? And the other team, just got to the NFC Championship game, and they're not doing that. Why are we got to do that?
Yeah,
it's a mess.
Well, with Herm Edwards, I'm curious, with that logic, how you might apply that to Dan Campbell and why it's worked so well in Detroit, where it never worked. Why does it work with Dan Campbell, you think?
Well, because obviously he's a player's coach. He's played the game. He has credibility that way. And, he has this rough personality, but he understands how to communicate to these players. And when you can do that and win, obviously you have more credibility with the players, right? Mm-hmm. And he gets it. He gets it. He understands it because he was a player. And it's just like when I started coaching, I used to ask myself this question, especially when I became a head coach. I would think about doing something. Then I would ask myself, if I was a player and I asked these guys and the coach asked me to do this, what would I think? And sometimes I think about it and I go, oh, I even can't ask him that question because I know what I would have thought as a player. I ain't even asking him that. It ain't going to work.
Well, do you think the Lions have a chance this weekend? A lot of people are just handing it to the Niners. No. What do you think?
No, they got a chance because they match up with the 49ers in this sense. The 49ers, they can bully you. Mm-hmm. They can flat bully you. They got bullied by the Ravens. Green Bay came in there and really kind of set them off a little bit and just kind of shocked them in the fact that Green Bay was running the ball on them. Detroit wants to run the ball. Their whole passing game relies on the run game. So when you look at that tape, you're going, hey, look, we can run on these guys. This is a game where it's generally 11, 12 possessions. This could be like the Ram game that Detroit played. It was only an 8-possession game because both teams methodically moved the ball. So the 49ers understand that. They understand they got to stop the run. Because you got to stop the run, you got to add the eighth element into the box. So you're going to get a lot of single safety high. You're going to get a lot of corners exposed to can we cover their guys, man to man. And that's where they're going to have a chance.
So, Herm, in the other game, we were just saying it feels a little bit like deja vu, maybe because we're just down the road from Buffalo here, but a lot of people in this area bought into the hype. Hey, the Bills are favored. The Bills are at home. The Bills are going to get it done. And yet they maybe overlooked the fact that this was Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid as underdogs, and we saw how that turned out. And here we are again, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid as underdogs. How do you like their chances?
Well, you always like their chances because you got to understand what Patrick Mahomes is chasing. He's chasing Tom Brady, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what he's doing. He's flat chasing the guy. He's chasing his records, what he's been able to accomplish. And it's a team that, when you look at them early in the season, they kind of struggle some. You said, Detroit went in there and beat them. And you went, what? The Lions beat these guys at home first game of the season? How can that happen? And then they struggled a little bit, and all of a sudden toward the end of the season they got better. People don't realize how good their defense is. But at the end, when you think about the Buffalo game, guys, it boiled down to this. And people are harping on, well, the guys dropped some passes. I'm a Josh Allen fan. I love the guy. The guy had 50 touchdowns, throwing and running. But at the end of the day, and Josh Allen will tell you this, if you're going to be Patrick Mahomes, when you have the last possession, when you own the last possession to win the football game, you can't kick a field goal. You got to score.
Mm-hmm.
You got to score a touchdown. And he knows that. They score a touchdown, they win that game. The game's over. They're in the championship game. But they decided to kick a field goal. They miss it. Over. The last time they did that and they tied it, it was 13 seconds left in Kansas City, and the guy went down the field and they kicked the field goal and beat him.
Mm-hmm.
So quarterbacks understand that. For him to get to the next level, I hope he does, because I love the kid. I love Josh Allen. But that's what he's got to do. And all these quarterbacks know the guy you got to go through is the same guy that was at New England for 9 years, went to 9 Super Bowls, that you got to deal with. Now it's Patrick Mahomes. You got to beat that guy in the AFC if you're going to go. Lamar Jackson understands that. Lamar Jackson's 1-3 against him. This is a big game for Lamar Jackson, too.
No kidding. It's a massive game for him. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great weekend. Herm, enjoy it, and we look forward to catching up down the road. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Herm Edwards of ESPN.
I don't think there's a bigger compliment you can give an athlete to say the road towards the championship is through the team that you're on. I think that's like the king daddy topper of compliments. It's like Patrick Mahomes. It's like average year, just get into the playoffs, dominating year. It's like they're going to be there. And if you want to win anything, you got to go through that guy. Mm-hmm. It's just like, that's when you're the man.
Well, and you know what's also amazing is that it's just a clear path. It's him and Brady. Like, it's not you're chasing Manning, you're chasing Elway, it's Montana.
One guy,
like, dude. Montana's not even in it anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like there's what you're chasing Brady, and that's the only guy because you've passed the others. Like, I don't know if that's fair or true to Montana. Like, Montana was 4-0 in the Super Bowl and unbelievable, and yet, I think it's pretty well established that Brady is the guy now, is the GOAT. Like, he has set the new bar, and it's like, usually you just got to move up the ladder. Like, okay, there, you passed that guy. Now you passed that guy. Mahomes has done so much in like 5.5 years. It's just him and Brady.
Yeah.
Like, they're isolated already. It's incredible.
It really is.
And yeah, Lamar, like, as much as I think he's representing himself clearly and his own legacy in building something that can be very, very special, in a way, he's also representing like the rest of the generation. Where it's like Mahomes versus Burrow, Allen, Jackson. Like there's, Herbert, Lawrence. There's a number of other guys that are kind of in the same age bracket. And it's like, who's going to possibly challenge that guy? Because he's over here on his own, and the rest of you are, it's like the Avengers. Like, who is the one guy, like that main guy, that the villain that took all the rings in the end? And that's kind of what it feels like. And
I just can't believe that you can get all that and 4 points. You can get Mahomes and 4 points, Hayes.
Yes.
I mean, I don't see that.
You got to take it.
I don't see how you don't.
JP, shout out. Thanos. That was the name I was looking for.
JP.
Yeah, not a huge Marvel guy myself, but Thanos. That's what Mahomes is. Mahomes is Thanos. And the rest of them are the Avengers. And they're just trying to stop this guy, and he's taking every single ring. Every year it's a new one. It's like, how are you going to stop you? I don't think you can.
I thought your comments on Jay were good, but the Thanos and the Warriors things, that's garbage.
You're not buying that?
That's
JP, you're a Marvel guy. Do you like Thanos as an analogy for Mahomes?
Oh, let me guess. JP's going to say that was great, Hayes. Go ahead, JP.
Listen, I'm not his boss. The grappler is.
I think it's okay. It's not how I would have made the comparison or the analogy.
Thank you for being honest, JP.
Thank you, JP.
Maybe after Marty Biron, we're going to debut JP sauce.
JP sauce. All right. Where he just
pours
pours sauce,
take, JP.
or he pours sauce over one of our takes. It's like, that was an awful take. Bland, and it needs some spice.
Love that.
And it's a JP sauce.
JP, if you've got a take today that you thought was garbage, and there's been a bunch from the guy with Hayes under him, if you got one you want to pour some JP sauce on, Let us know.
All right, JP Sauce will be debuted. Doogie, throw it out on Twitter. I'm telling you, man. I think Thanos is Mahomes. I think that lands. I think that's a great analogy. I want a poll. I want a poll question. I want to see if people agree with me.
You have people sitting on their couches drinking beers and
they don't know what I'm talking about.
Scratching their mustaches on their face. They don't watch Thanos and the other stuff.
I hear you. You know what I'm talking about, right, Dave?
Kind of lost
Avengers,
me on that
the End Game.
Yeah, you lost everyone's. It's just it's nonsense.
All right, my bad. Moving on. Let me give it a Trudeau clap.
Whoa, the nose beer clap.
Whoa! Just really get a little bit crazy there. Let's clap as fast as we can and move on here. All right, what do we have? There it is. Look at that clap. Oh, man. What a clap last night in Ottawa. All right, what do we have? Marty Biron coming up. Marty's coming up. We'll get his take on the Leafs last night. Ilya Samsonov, what he saw out of him. And Patrick Waugh. Does he think Patrick Waugh gets on the Jumbotron tonight and gives a wave? Or maybe a rapid clap? Maybe
the rapid clap's a thing.
Maybe the clapper comes out tonight for Patrick Waugh. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Thanos, a lot of people are supporting this online. We have a poll up. Yes, there's a lot of support.
Think about this, Hayes. I'm a pretty well-rounded person. I've never heard of Thanos.
Then you're not cultured. You have no culture. Like, you not knowing Thanos, it's, I believe, the highest grossing movie of all time. One of them, anyway. Avengers Endgame.
No one in our circles cares about Thanos. There's people writing me all the time saying, I'm ashamed and I've never heard of it. And I don't want to Google it.
Well, you should know. I think Josh Brolin played him. And, yeah, it was Josh Brolin. Thanos. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Second highest grossing movie.
Second highest?
Avatar still has the title.
Avatar's still at the top?
Apparently.
The original one?
Allegedly.
No way.
What they say.
Wow, okay. All right, do we have Marty on the line? Here's our good buddy Marty Biron, our TSN hockey analyst. How you doing, Marty?
I'm doing good. I'm more of a water boy type of movies myself, so I have no idea
you ever heard, Mon Ami? You ever heard of Thanos?
No. I'm on Team O-Dog for that one. I have never heard of that movie. And I feel like I've watched a lot of movies in my life, but never that one.
You guys are nuts, man.
Beaucoup, mon ami.
No, it's crazy. I mean, you're a Bobby Boucher guy over Thanos. Come on. Figure it out. Come on, Marty.
I'm just saying Bobby Boucher because that is the highest grossing sports movie of all time, The Waterboy.
It should
be. With all the great movies, right? Like Waterboy is the number one sports movie for the money that they made. It's crazy.
Okay. All right. I was not aware of that. Look at that, Marty, bringing the heat. I love the info. What do you make of Ilya Samsonov? Where are we at with him in terms of his progression? Like, do we have a stage set now, considering how well he played last night, Marty?
We have somewhat of a stage set, but more importantly, it's not so much he played awesome last night. That's not like Winnipeg is a really top-end team, and the saves and the quality of saves he had to make was incredible. But more importantly for me is there's a gradual, step from his first game against the Red Wings, which was okay, to the game against Seattle. Not busy, right? 17 shots, but was steady in that game. And now that was a standout performance from Ilya Samsonov. And I've talked about it before. I think Samsonov has some physical limitation in his style. He's very, he fights a lot. Like he'll battle for everything. That Toronto yesterday, he battled for it, but it's not the best technical save that you're going to see. But the biggest thing with Samsonov, what I've noticed last year and a half, was mentally. Like he always kind of seemed to be hard on himself and a lot more calm the last few games here. And in the way that he's made saves, like I wasn't sweating that game last night. I'm watching that game thinking he's got this. His body language showed he had it. And so that is a big step for me, is how he was, his body language was showing positivity instead of negativity.
So, Marty, let me put you in this position. You're the goaltending coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you've got one game on Saturday. And after the All-Star break, there's potential for all three of your goaltenders to be healthy. How would you be handling, or what would you advise the coaches, or what advice would you offer the coaching staff for the Leafs coming out of that All-Star break? All three of your guys are healthy. Jones, Samsonov, Woll.
So the way that I look at it is I have to see where on the health spectrum is Joseph Woll? Is he at 80%? Is he at 90%? Is he 100%? And then are the performances, unfortunately, it sucks. He got hurt.
Well, they wouldn't put him back
really
in, Marty, if he wasn't 100%.
No, but I also think that, even if he is 100%, I can't say he's got the number one job locked in. Like if it was, a veteran like Connor Hellebuck, he misses time, he comes back, he's your number one goaltender, right? He's earned that year after year after year. But Joseph Woll, even though he was the best goalie for the Leafs before he got injured, I don't think it's automatic he'll get the number one, he'll resume as the number one. I think you got to see the internal competition and see where everybody's at. But I still think that you go back to the original plan. Woll and Samsonov are your two guys. Martin Jones came in and did great work, but he's still, for me, the insurance policy. And we're seeing his play drop off a little bit of late. Last year in Seattle, Martin Jones started the season really well, actually put Seattle on the map. But as soon as Grubauer was ready and going, I was like, sorry, Marty Jones, but it's Grubauer's net. So I feel like that's the same situation now. Woll and Samsonov, for me, are the two guys. Jones is the insurance policy. He may have saved your season this year because he really played well when you didn't have a goalie. But you got to go back to the original plan. And, if Samsonov continued to play the way that he is right now, he'll actually make a strong play for I want to be the number one, which, 3 weeks ago, it was Joseph Woll is the only savior that hopefully returns soon for the Maple Leafs.
So, Marty, look, everybody loved what Samsonov did last night. He's getting a standing ovation. They're shouting, chanting Sammy at the Scotiabank Arena. But we also know, look, it's a couple of games where he's been credible. There was October, November, December where he was one of the worst goalies in the league, if not the worst. He got waived. He had to take some time away from the team. If you're the goalie coach of this team, how much do you need to see, not just 2 games, I'm sure, before you're convinced that this guy is actually back and he's not going to revert to the form that we saw not too long ago?
Yeah, well, I think you have the rest of the season to make that decision, right? You don't have to pick a starting goalie for game 1 of the playoffs until game 1 of the playoffs, and that's if the Leafs get there, and I think they'll be there, no problem in my opinion, but you don't have to put the cart in front of the horses. You just wait it out, and you say, okay, let's see who's taking the lead. Maybe it has to be all the way late in March and early April to really see who's going to take the lead. But Samsonov is doing exactly what he should be doing. And right now, you can speak in a positive manner about Samsonov because if it had gone the other way, if he had played 3 bad games, we would definitely be standing here saying, hey, this guy is out of the league now. You can't trust him. So, if it would have been 3 bad games, there would have been a lot of negativity coming his way. It's 3 good games and 1 great game in the 3. I think the positivity should be directed at him because of what he was able to accomplish. Look at it's the same thing in Edmonton, right? Jack Campbell is in the minors. If he was burning the AHL, it would be, hey, let's get this guy back to the NHL. He's not. So there's not a lot of positive comments being made about Jack Campbell because he's not doing, what Samsonov did in the 3 games back.
Marty, let's get to the important stuff. Tonight in Montreal, do you think the Habs are going to put on the Jumbotron a shot of Patrick Waugh with a sign saying, welcome back to the NHL and getting another coaching job, Patrick Waugh?
Well, he's been back to Montreal before as a coach, right, with Colorado.
Exactly, but expand.
But here's the thing. Patrick Waugh, 2 years ago, a lot of people were saying he's never coming back to the NHL. How he left in Colorado, he's a bit of a loose cannon. GMs are not going to trust him. It took a guy like Lou Lamoriello to say, hey, I don't care if Patrick left in the middle of a game. He's the guy I want, and I'm confident enough that I can make it work. So, but anybody else, and I read the comments from Michael Andlauer, the new owner in Ottawa, saying I kind of regret not hiring Patrick, right? Maybe the timing wasn't right, but that's another place that I think it would have worked for Patrick Waugh. But there's only a handful of those places that would have worked. There's a lot of other places that they were kind of hesitant as to, maybe he'll leave in the middle of the season or early in the season because he can. He's Patrick. But I think it'll be cool tonight in Montreal. It'll be a good feeling, and I think the Islanders are going to come out like just firing on all cylinders because he brings that out of everybody. I mean, I never played with him. I played against him. But I remember talking to Chris Drury about Patrick Waugh, and he said when he looked around the room and he was ready for a game, we all wanted to follow him into battle. And I think he'll do that tonight for the Islanders.
Yeah, and I think he gets on the Jumbotron and gives a wave.
So, Marty, I don't know if you answered the question. Do you think they show him on the Jumbotron and say, congrats on getting another coaching job?
Okay, so I'll answer this with two answers. One, I think they're going to show him, and they're going to say a little something nice about Patrick. Maybe not congratulations on getting another coaching job, but maybe congratulations, Patrick, welcome back to Montreal. That's one thing. But I also heard you on the show earlier saying you think Patrick's going to put $5,000 on the wall as money for the game-winning goal, whatnot. That's not allowed anymore. That's cap circumvention. Remember Ron Wilson in Toronto? He got in trouble because they played San Jose and he had money in the locker room, and the Leafs got in big trouble because of that. That's salary cap circumvention. No team officials can put money on the wall.
Wow. Okay, Marty. Well, you know what he can do? He can just vocalize it. He can say, guys, whoever wants to rip home the game winner tonight, I've got $10,000 in my briefcase, and it's going in your jeans. Anybody interested?
Or he can make the credit card available for team dinner next time.
It's like O said earlier. If we win tonight, something's wrong with the plane. We stay in Montreal tonight.
It's very foggy in the Northeast.
Yes, it is. It has been
I've had
very
that happen
foggy
before.
Very foggy.
But Marty, have you ever had a coach say, if you guys win this game tonight, I'll make sure we stay the night?
Not so much in those words, but I do remember we were in Minnesota one year with the Flyers. Paul Holmgren was our GM, and we had Steve Downey getting suspended for 20 games or 25 games in preseason. Jesse Bullery's getting suspended for 20 games for cross-checking Ryan Kessler in the face. And we're in Minnesota. Riley Cote got suspended. Randy Jones got suspended. And Paul Holmgren comes in, and he's giving us the speech. Guys, the league is pissed at us, but let's keep playing hard. And I don't care if we get more suspension. I'll handle it. But he didn't see that on the board. We had written Paul Holmgren because he's from Minnesota and all of that for money on the board. And he saw it, and he gave us all that look. And we were like, oh, no, we're in big trouble. And then he walked out, like, super pissed. And then he came back. He goes, I've got $2,000 on the board. Like, the same thing, right? That was before there was rules in place. The whole room exploded. It was awesome. So it wasn't the plane is staying, but it was kind of the GM saying, I'm with you guys on that one.
That's awesome. Yeah, they gotta allow that. Forget cap circumvention. Come on, cash, so man. It's like Patrick Waugh, put it up in Canadian. It doesn't even have to be American. That should circumvent it.
They'll get paid would remember segment bonuses, right? When there was like 5 game segment bonuses, and you had one game, and if you won that game, everybody got $500 or $1,000, and guys used to use that money, for parties, or, you went boozing on the road a little bit. Like, segment bonuses were so much fun.
Yeah.
I honestly never paid attention to that nonsense. If you want to pay me $3.5 million, I do not care about a $200 bonus for a segment bonus. I just thought that was ridiculous.
Well, I mean, if you get a couple guys getting called up from the minors and they make,
it's great. Hey, I'm not saying I totally discounted it. I'm just saying it wasn't on top of my mind. Let's just say that.
Yeah, well, you were a legend, so legends don't worry about that stuff.
No, he's a big shooter. All right, Marty. Well, we'll see. Yeah, Patrick Waugh, I love it. Get on the board tonight. Little congratulations in en français and anglais, I believe. And we'll see what comes of it tonight. All right, buddy. You guys.
I know that.
Go ahead.
We actually have to carry, we don't usually carry the national anthem for the Montreal games, but Steve, our producer, just said, hey, by the way, we have a shorter opening tonight because Montreal is going to do a little something, with the national anthem and before. So I think if you're tuning in to TSN2, the Montreal Canadiens game tonight, you may see a little something early in the broadcast.
I love it. There you go. That is called a tease. I love it. Patrick Waugh with the what's he going to have?
Torch?
He'll have the torch behind the bench. He's got to have the torch.
The whole game. He'll coach with the torch the whole game.
In his Canadiens jersey. With the torch.
Change him up.
Yeah.
They'll bring the banner down for photo op.
As he
Let's
should.
bring the 33 down.
Yeah, he's got to have the 2 cups in his ears, too, right? You can't hear anything. He's got to be behind the bench. All right, Marty. Enjoy it tonight. Thank you, buddy.
Have a good one.
There's our good buddy Marty Biron, TSN hockey analyst. Yeah, that'd be outstanding. Torch the whole game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it when they bring out the torch.
They do it. They do it incredibly well. Like Montreal sets the standard in the NHL. The way they start seasons and their ceremonies. And
Their first game, if you're a hockey fan, I don't even care if you do not like the Habs. Go to one of their first game, their home opener one year, just to experience it. If you're a Leaf fan, go. Like if you're lucky enough, the Leafs are there. Try to get to the first game of the season for the Montreal Canadiens. If you're just a hockey fan,
yeah,
you won't regret it.
No, it's been like the Habs were here for opening night. The Leafs haven't played Montreal since opening night.
Yeah,
and I don't think they play again in Toronto. I think they have 2 games in Montreal in March and April. Like 2 of the last 7 or 8 games of their season, I believe, are in Montreal. Which
great feeling, man. It's one of the things that like will always stick with me is when, I mean, the Habs would usually time it to come out on the ice just after the visiting team did a couple laps. And when that guy rose, like he would raise his voice and say, like, the Habs are, it was just a special cheer. Like that'll always stick with me, those fans, how they would, greet the team on the ice. Cause it was just really cool.
Did you play at the Forum?
Yeah, 1 year I did. Montreal Forum.
That's old school,
what
man.
a place.
That is old school.
Yeah, the Forum is old school. All right, we'll come back with our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Thursdays on Overdrive, we look at same-game parlays in the NFL. And do that today. Lions, I'm taking the points. Lions +7. I think it's a close game. I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit won. That's too big of a spread. The Niners, they've been challenged. I mean, the Packers almost had them.
Yeah.
The Ravens went in there a few weeks ago and spanked them. I'm going to take the points. Brock Purdy under 274.5 passing yards, and Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown, which is paying like minus like 250 or 300 or something on FanDuel. It's crazy.
That guy's unreal, man. He's one of the best players I've ever watched. Like, he's just incredible.
It's automatic. He gets in the end zone every single week.
Yeah.
And last week it was multiple times. Like, it's incredible. So parlay those 3 together. You're talking big plus money. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is the exclusive home of the OverDrive same-game parlay. Please play responsibly. 18 plus and physically located in Ontario. All right, JP. You have any JP sauce you want to, put, well, because, we've kind of been workshopping this throughout the afternoon, and I think what's appropriate is if we have a bland take, there was a take that was simply not spicy enough, we might need some sauce, right? You might want to add possibly some JP sauce. Do you have anything you'd want to add some JP sauce to or what?
I think I'll add a little spice to your Crosby take.
Oh.
Not that he goes to Boston or Boston's the best fit.
Mm-hmm.
I think he should go to Winnipeg.
Winnipeg.
What?
I think the Jets should make a big
turn his
splash.
guy's mic off.
I love that.
No, actually, I'm going to give him a chance.
Splash.
I'm going to give him a chance. I'm going to give him a chance. Why Winnipeg, JP? You've got to go with Boston over Winnipeg. Why Winnipeg?
I think we've over the course of the last few months, there's been a lot of talk on this show, maybe, but Calgary's had a lot of players that said they don't want to be there, they don't like the market, they don't like the Canadian media. Crosby going back to a Canadian city, representing a team that's in the hunt, looking for that top spot, and they are going to be playing against a tough division rival, potentially at some point, in Colorado, Nathan McKinnon, good buddies.
All right.
I think it's going to cost a lot, obviously, but Winnipeg has picks. They have young talent. I think if they go for Crosby, they go hunting for the next 2 to 3 years. He's chasing cups, as Hayes said.
All right. I don't think there's a chance in hell Sidney Crosby would accept that, but possible, and I like the spice. I like it, and that's what we're looking for. That's why JP supplies spice. That's the JP sauce. I had not thought of that angle, and I appreciate that angle.
That
Boston,
is what we're going to do on a lot of days is JP sauce, brought to you by JP Sauce.
JP. There you go. Attaboy JP. And you're right. I mean, going up against McKinnon, that seems like, I think one of those two teams is going to win the division, so you're probably playing Dallas. more than likely in the first round. But all right, JP's calling it, right? If it ever happens, if Sid ever says I got to get out of here, JP's calling for the Winnipeg Jets.
Wow.
Think of that, Dave. I bet you never thought you'd see that.
I hadn't thought of that one.
All right, I like it. Yeah, there you go. The first inaugural JP sauce. Okay. All right, so we've had a fun day today. We've got
It's been really good. It's been fun.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good takes. Some were more bland than others, I guess. Anthony Kim is returning to golf, if you're into that kind of thing.
Thanos is involved.
Patrick Mahomes is Thanos. That was the analogy that I'm going to continue to hammer home.
One of these guys is going to walk on one of these golf courses like Augusta or a U.S. Open, and they're going to win.
There it is. And we went back.
That was on the show.
Yep, we went back to April, I guess that was. And there you go. You hammered that. Calling the amateur golf world coming alive. Shout out to Nick Dunlap. All right, Dave, good seeing you, man. Thank you for doing this.
Great seeing you guys.
Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. Thank you to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it, as always. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at...
Pas cette fois, Patrick Waugh. Pas cette fois. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.